Hello, everyone. Today we are here to have a discussion on the concept of recruitment and selection. Before going through the session, talking about the objectives of this session, we will be discussing the concepts of recruitment and selection, and also be discussing how recruitment is different from the process of selection. Different sources of recruitment we will be discussing about, in which external sources and internal sources will be included, and what are the process of selection in any organization will also be discussed in the session. So, coming to the concept of recruitment, if we try to define the concept of recruitment, basically it is a process of creating a pool of candidates, and from that pool of candidates, we can select the right person for the right job. Different authors have defined this term in their own way, and if we try to conclude the definitions given by different authors, we can say that it is the process of searching the perfect candidate for employment, and just trying to stimulate them so that maximum number of candidates can apply for the post in the organization. Coming to the sources of recruitment, two sources of recruitment happens, and in which first one is external sources and the another one is internal sources. If we talk about external sources, there are several sources like direct recruitment is there, video advertisement, employment agencies, campus recruitment, referrals, uh, e-recruitment is also there. And if we talk about internal sources, transfer and promotions can be seen, and generally it takes place within any organization. In external sources, the first one is direct recruitment. It is a very important and easy source of recruitment, we can say. It is also known as recruitment and factory gate, because in this process, generally a notice is placed on a notice board outside the organization, which describes the details of available jobs in that organization. The second is media advertisement, which is very common nowadays, and when qualified or experienced personnel are not available in the organization, then such kind of advertisement is published in newspapers or in professional journals, in which proper it is published with proper description and specification part, so that maximum number of applicants can apply for the post. Next is the employment agencies. Basically, they are run by the government, and they are also regarded as a good source of recruitment from where we can hire unskilled, semi-skilled, as well as skilled employees. Next is the campus recruitment, which is very, very common, and recruitment from various educational institutes is considered as one of the most important sources of recruitment, and in which jobs in various organizations requires different streams, students having technical and professional degree from the several reputed colleges, and those students are then placed in the organization after the conduction of the interview and the several other process of selection. Next is the recommendations or referrals, in which applicants introduced by friends or relatives may be hired. And this may be considered as one of the good source of recruitment as well. Generally, organizations prefer these type of employees because somewhere they feel that their background is known, and when a person is referred from the side of the existing employee, that can be more fruitful and more beneficial for the organization. The next is website or e-recruitment. This is a it can be said as a recent trend in the recruitment process, and several organizations nowadays use internet as a source of recruitment, and they advertise their vacancies through www, that is World Wide Web, and accordingly job seekers uh, seeks the job over there, and they share their CVs through mails to the prospective employers, so that they can be also be considered for that particular post in the organization. And now coming to the internal sources, that consist of two types. One is transfer and another one is promotion. When we talk about transfer, it involves basically the shifting of an employees from one job to another, one department to another, or one shift to other. But there should be a kind of insurance that assurance that the reason for which any particular employee is being shifted from one position to another is being fulfilled or not. If there is requirement of this kind of transfer in the organization, then only it should take place. Otherwise, it should be ignored, uh, or it should be prevented. In fact, transfer does not include any drastic changes in responsibilities, pay, or status of an employee. It's just a shifting of an employee from one position to another, one department to another, or maybe one branch to another. So this is transfer. We do not expect any kind of pay increase in pay, or any kind of increase in status of the employee. Next is promotion, which involves a shifting of an employee to higher position, and definitely it carries higher responsibilities as well, higher facilities. Not only that, but higher status as well as increase in pay also. Many companies fill their vacancies of higher jobs by promoting employees who are considered to be effective for that particular post. And generally, for all these purposes, succession planning is done in the organization, through which organization tries to identify the potential candidate in the organization, and accordingly they nurture their skills, their capabilities, and they just prepare that personnel for higher positions in the organization. And then once the employee is ready to hold that position, he or she is shifted to that particular position. That is one of the sources of very important sources of recruitment in the organization. Coming to the next aspect, that is the selection. It comes after the recruitment process. In recruitment, as we have discussed, that it is the process in which we try to create a pool of candidates, and once we have created a pool of candidates, we have lot many candidates, and from that pool we can have a good number of potential candidates for our organization. So we are now starting our process of selection. Selection, that is a series of steps through which candidates are screened and selected for a particular post. And its main purpose is to select right person for the various positions in the organization. As it is known that the process of selection is quite lengthy and complex, as it involves a series of steps before making the final selection. Means whenever any final employees are selected for any kind of post, he or she needs to be face several kind of processes and several kind of steps. Then only the final candidate is selected for the process. And this process of selection, it may vary from industries to industry. We cannot compare the selection process of one industry with the selection process of other industry. There, it's totally upon their discretion that what process they are going to use, what process they are going to, what step they are going to skip. Every organization, they designs their own process, keeping in mind the urgency of hiring people and the prerequisites for the job vacancy. We should go for the hiring process only if there is urgent requirement for the employees in our organization or not. And again, for that process, we need to go for a proper HRP. That is, we need to properly plan the manpower in our organization, and we need to make sure that actually we require manpower in our organization or not. If we have in our organization we have shortage manpower, then only we should proceed towards the concept of recruitment and selection. Otherwise, uh, after recruiting, if we have excess number of employees in our organization, that may create a financial burden on the organization as well. And it's better that we should select right number of people uh, instead of retrenching employees from our organization after their recruitment. So here we can see a diagram in which the different steps are mentioned that are generally used in selection process, in which the first is the preliminary interview that is being conducted at, this is the initial level, this is the first level, in which the useless applications are being screened. And after that, the applications which are only reliable and which are related to the vacancies that were advertised, uh, we try to receive those applications, and after that the screening of the application is done. And once those who qualifies this step, after that the self employment test is being conducted. Then it is followed by the employment interview, After that, the references are checking, and then medical examination is being done. If medically the employees are fit, they are being offered the offer letter finally. Preliminary interview, we can see that it is also called as a screening interview, where those candidates are eliminated for the further selection, those who do not meet the minimum eligibility criteria as that is desired by the organization. And once the individual qualifies the preliminary interview, he or she is required to fill in the application form in the prescribed format, which contains the details like age, qualification, experience, etc. And this information helps the interviewer to get the fair idea about the candidate. Once the applications are received, again these are screened by a screening committee, and finally they prepare a list of those applicants whom they find suitable for the interview. The shortlisting criteria may be anything, that could be age, that could be gender, that could be qualification, depending upon the criteria of the organization again. Then the several employment tests are being conducted to just check the you can say skills of the skills and abilities of the employees, such as intelligence tests, aptitude tests, interest tests, and somewhere psychological tests are also being conducted. Then comes the employment interview. The one-to-one session is being arranged, in which the employer and the candidate who has come for the interview meets face to face, and several questions are asked from the side of the employer. And once the employer thinks that the candidate is perfect for the post, he is being selected. Otherwise, he is being rejected. Then comes the checking reference, and the firm usually asks for the references from the candidate to just cross check the authenticity of the information that was provided by him. And then medical examination, where physical and mental fitness of the candidates are checked to ensure that he is capable of performing that job or not. And in some of the organization, the medical examination is done at the very beginning of the selection process, while in some cases it is done after the final selection. Once the candidate is declared fit for the post, finally he gets the offer letter. Once he qualifies all the rounds, so this is the process of selection. Next, we will be discussing about the employment tests. As we have discussed in the selection process, that there are several kind of employment tests that are being conducted for the candidates in the organization. So some of the employment tests are intelligence test, aptitude test, achievement test, personality test. In intelligence test, it measures generally the abilities of the person, which checks their general ability, their numerical ability, or their reasoning ability, etc. Talking about the aptitude test, it is generally for the persons having no experience, and it is essential to check their necessary talents, what capabilities actually they have, or they will be capable to perform the job or not. The achievement test is generally for those people having experience, and to check their knowledge and the skills that they have performed in their last job. Generally, this kind of test takes place in the organization. And the next is the personality test, which checks the personality of the person or person. Basically, it refers to the skills, motivations, or self beliefs, etc. And the employers can be able to know that what kind of personality an individual is having, and whether that kind of personality will be helpful for for our organization or not, and accordingly the decision will be taken. After that comes the interview process. And when we talk about interview, what actually interview means, it is a formal and in-depth conversation conducted to evaluate the person's capability. Generally, it happens face to face, which serves three objectives. The thing that is not mentioned in the CV, that can be obtained while the interview session. Okay, means to say ki we can just gather some additional information that is required to hire any person in the organization. Also, it this platform may be used to give information to employees about the company's policies and jobs. And also through this process, employer can just try to build the image of the company. Talking about the types of interview, four types of interview we can see here: structured, unstructured, stress, and panel interview. Now, when we talk about the selection, evaluation of the selection process, means to say the individual whom we have selected for our organization, whether he is suitable or not, we need to evaluate the whole process. And selection can be considered as right only when right people will be hired for right jobs and at right times. Means to say, three R's need to be considered while we are selecting people for our organization, and three criteria have been used by the organization to ensure the three R's. Cost per hire. Whenever we initiate the process of hiring, we need to keep in mind the cost per hire. And definitely it varies from organization to organization depending upon the skill level of hires, demand and supply of such skills, number of hires, etc. The cost per hire will vary. Next is the time to hire, means to say whenever there is a time for recruitment process, then only it should be done. And somewhere this is the method which can ensure the effectiveness of selection process. And generally it refers to the lapse time between notification of vacant position and the new hire joins the organization. Means I'm just trying to say that once we have vacant position in our organization, we need to start the recruitment process immediately. And when the hire joins the organization, that is the time what we are talking about, time to hire, what time we are just taking to hire a person. Is that justified, or we have taken too long to hire, to complete our hiring process, or we have just done it in hurry? Okay, so we need to evaluate the process, and the individuals whom we have selected will is right or wrong, that also needs to be evaluated. In quality of hire, hiring is always said to be qualitative when the three R's are fulfilled. And this is a lengthy process and time consuming, therefore, no compromises should be made while hiring the personnel in the organization. So this is the evaluation of selection process, and through this process, we can ensure a high profile candidate in our organization. So this is what we need to discuss about the recruitment and selection process.